Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to the second Automotive Business Agility show by Altran. I am Diego Lavecchia. I'm a UX designer at Altran Germany. I'm based in Berlin and now speaking from Berlin. And I will lead you through the show today. As you can see also here on the top, the title of this show is The Secrets of Agile Transition at Scale. Who of you was with us during the last webcast? You might remember that we talked about the hands-on practices of the agility playbook and we presented it. Now today we will move a step forward, and so we will see how we can really scale them in big organizations. Today with me, as it was for the last time as well, there is Frank Schultheiss. Is in Hanover today, and he is the author of the Agility Playbook and also an expert of business agility. So welcome, Frank.
Hi, Diego. Yes, and welcome to all of you. Today we are here to share the success factors of Agile at Scale that we discovered at Altran. And we will cover, for example, that scaling Agile is hard, but descaling legacy could be even harder. And one other key point is speed. In a recent webcast, the former Volvo manager, Alan Fisher, said that the main difference between Europe and China is speed. Decisions that take weeks and months in Europe only take days and hours in China. And with that in mind, it's quite interesting to learn more about the really fast transition at Volvo Cars, because Volvo is owned by a Chinese company. And that's our first case, the really fast transition at Volvo with the scaled Agile framework SAFe. The second part is about the flight levels. That's also an approach to Agile at Scale. And we have the inventor of the flight levels here with us. The second part is about custom frameworks, picking the best of all. And then we will focus on lean portfolio management to connect strategy with execution. But before we come then to the main part, to the panel discussion, of course, we will share the secrets and highlight the secrets of Agile transition at scale.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
That's the scope for today.
Yeah, great. And it's thank you for the introduction here. So we would like now to introduce all our guests. As you can see, today we are a lot. And so I would start introducing them one by one. So welcome, first of all, to Maria Hansson. Maria is a change leader at Volvo Cars, and she's today in Gothenburg. So hello, Maria.
Hello.
Then with us, there's Wolfgang Hilpert today, and he's the managing principal of Sensible Agility and the former VP of Business Agility at Ear Technologies. Hello, Wolfgang, are you in Heidelberg today? Is it right?
Yes, hello, everybody.
Hello. So we have Markus Vogg. Markus is the director inside Driven Agile at Capgemini Invent, and he's connected from Frankfurt today. Also, if you are normally based on Munich. Hello, Markus. And then we have Roland Wolfig with us. Roland is a consultant and coach at Be Everything You Are. BAYA is the acronym. Hello, Roland.
Hello.
And Roland is connected from Vienna in Austria. So there's something more that I have to tell you. So we will have, as Frank already shortly said, a very insightful contribution from Klaus Leopold. So Klaus Leopold is the founder of the Flight Levels Academy. He was supposed to be with us today live here, but unfortunately he had some tech issues, so he's not unfortunately with us live, but he sent us a video, so we can still grab some insights from his contribution. To the crowd, if you want to make any question during the show, please use the live chat here on YouTube, or you can write us to agilesolutions@altron.com. Later on, we will have a panel discussion, and Sven Spröde, a colleague from us, is collaborating on this, so he will read the questions from you, and the panel can answer to your questions. So I would say hello to Sven as well. Hello, Sven.
Hello, also from my side. So please give me your questions.
Yes, do it. So we are waiting for your questions during the show. Okay, so let's start with the first part of the show. We will go through some solo part from our guests, and the first one is Maria Hansson. So Maria, as we already said, is a change leader at Volvo Cars, and she's dealing with the transition at Volvo with SAFE. As Frank also said previously, in Volvo there is some awareness now about the difference of speed between the European companies and the Asian ones. So Maria will tell us a bit more about this and about Volvo, how Volvo is managing to do the transition at this new speed. So hello again, Maria.
Hello, yes. Nice to be here.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, so a little bit of background regarding our transition. We have had a very intense transformation program between 2017 and 2019. And before that, we had a number of agile experiments in software teams. And we also had a lean product development transformation program. But this didn't really take off because we didn't have a principal decision to go for it. So not until we got this big decision to have something called product streams. That was really the starting for creating a larger agile transformation. And this was in June 2017. Since then, we have transformed the whole product creation organization. So we have 65 art. And we have run approximately, no, it's not approximately, exactly 11 PI plannings. Now we have, since December, we have transformed, or we have closed the transformation program, and we are now in what we call continuous improvement.
Cool. So you already said something that I wanted to ask you, because one of my first question was something about, so to tell us something more about the goal of the transition. So why you and Volvo are running this one. And yeah, I already wanted to ask you if there are some tangible results, but you are talking about continuous integration. So it's probably already an achievement that's tangible. What can you say about this?
But the goal from the beginning, it was really an understanding that we had to change, because we had to be able to cope with the new technologies and the new businesses that the automotive business needed to adjust to. And the old way of working didn't fit. And this was particularly important because the importance of software in our products and in our services is growing so rapidly. So we needed to become a really good software company. So I think that was the main driving force from the beginning.
And can you mention some of the biggest challenge that you went through in this part of the process so far, and how you went through them, how you resolved them?
I think, well, surprisingly enough, it was reasonably easy to decide to go for the art and find the art structure and find the teams. And also we early on decided to have PI plannings. So everybody is having plannings the same 4 weeks every year. So week 10, week 22, week 37, and week 49, we have planning weeks. So that was not the main challenge. The main challenge, I think, is to create the integration and release machinery for the car company, and to move away from the traditional project organization and the project setup to something different. This, together with the portfolio level, I would say is the most challenging.
I want to ask you also something that's slightly different, so not directly related to this process in Volvo, but about something that you said last year during a speech. So there was a sentence in one of your slides last year that was "change leader, a profession of its own." Can you tell us a bit more about this?
Well, yeah, I'm talking in my own case, so to say, but previously, operational development traditionally was run like projects. So you had people running operational development projects. And we really didn't develop the skill set of change leaders. And it's different from running any old or any development project. So I think that has really changed the speed of change in the organization, when we have realized that we need persons that have both the skill sets and the anchoring in the organization and the time to work with driving the transformation itself.
Okay. So since you were talking also about your own position and you are a change leader, if you could give to other change leaders an advice, what would you say? What is the most important secret that you would like to share with them and with the audience, since we are talking about the secrets of agile transition at scale?
I think one of the things that I've learned that I wasn't aware of before when I have been a manager for a long time, and I've been running changes in my own organization. But what was new for me is the idea of not focusing on the people who doesn't want the change, but rather focus on the people who want the change and give them space and give them, possibility to do positive things, and then use their example to get the other persons with you.
Yeah, sounds great. Now, going a bit back to Volvo and the processes, the question is, why did you choose SAFe at Volvo? So why exactly SAFe? And also, while implementing it, did you follow the step of the implementation roadmap? So also with the trainings for the leadership and the teams?
Well, at this point in June 2017, our management understood that we needed to do something regarding software. So we had a decision that we should go agile for software. But we had a pretty low knowledge level in the company. So it was a few people that had been experimenting. We had a few senior leaders that were software people coming from other companies. But really the organization as such was not very competent in software and the needs that software have. And in that situation, to create something from a blank paper, that would have taken much more time than going with a framework. So what we did is that we chose to use SAFe as a starting point. But we already from the beginning said that we are not going to be rigid about it. So we have made a lot of changes. And we are also continuously documenting our own version of a framework instead of using SAFe. So now we don't really use SAFe anymore. We use our own framework that we build on, but we are still inspired by SAFe. And regarding the implementation, we pretty much follow the main ideas in the implementation plan. We focus on the art establishment first, and then parallel to that, we trained all leaders in leading SAFe. And this we did with the help of external companies. But everything else we have done ourselves internally. So we haven't had very many consultants involved. And another difference was that we had the solution level given, since that was this top-down structural decision that we had to just use as a starting point as well. What we call product streams. Yeah.
So for now, thank you for your contribution, Maria.
Thank you.
I will meet you later in the panel discussion. And yeah, thank you for being with us. See
Thank
you in a bunch of minutes. We will move now to the next step. So, as we said, Klaus Leopold is not with us, unfortunately, today, but we are still very, very proud of having his contribution here, because he is the inventor of the flight levels and also one of the leading heads of the Kanban movement. So, but despite being a major contributor of the Kanban movement, I recently said in an interview that he noticed how more and more things were added to the Kanban approach and how it became more theoretical than practical. So that's why lately Klaus then decided to found this new movement, the flight levels, and to enjoy a more lightweight approach. So yeah, now we will play the video that we received from him, so we can hear also his insights.
Hello everyone, my name is Klaus Leopold and I have the pleasure to tell you a little bit about flight levels. I actually wanted to be part of the conversation, but the problem is we are on a strategy retreat. We, the Flight Levels Academy, are on a strategy retreat here in Greece, and it's totally beautiful here, but the internet is not so beautiful. So that's why Frank asked me to just say a little bit about flight levels, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So the question is, what is flight levels? Most of the time, one team alone cannot deliver value to the market. So what we need to do is we need to fly a little bit higher to solve this problem. And that's exactly where flight level 2 kicks in. Flight level 2 is end-to-end coordination of your value stream, which is something like products, your services on the market, right? So on the flight level 2, we make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. How do we do this? Well, again, we apply these 5 activities on our flight level 2 systems in an organization. The cool thing is we also connect these flight level 2 with the flight level 1 systems. And if we're connecting them, it's also quite nice to see that from the viewpoint of the flight level 2, we actually don't care about the methods that are being done on the team level. So teams can do Scrum, they can do Kanban, they can do, I don't know, whatever, they can just work. That's also fine, right? We just make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. Most of the time, an organization has more than only one product or service on the market. So we will see multiple of these flight level 2 systems where we apply again these 5 activities in our organization. Often we also see dependencies across these flight level 2 systems. So what we build is maybe an additional system where we manage the dependencies between all the products and services. But it's still a problem of flight level 2. There's one flight level left, which is flight level 3, so we can fly a little bit higher still. And flight level 3 is strategy. Strategy means, are we actually working on the right stuff? So what we try to do is we try to align the work on the strategy, and we try to make strategy happen. Make strategy happen means we need to connect our strategy system to our flight level 2 and flight level 1 systems. So now we can actually operationalize the strategy, deliver strategy. Most of the time, an organization has more than only one strategy board, so we can build multiple strategy boards in an organization. What is a flight level systems architecture? It actually consists of 3 things. The first is we build a work systems topology. So in a work systems topology, we try to find out what are your flight level 1, 2, flight level 3 systems, and how are they connected, right? So like the poster what you've seen before, but how does this look like in your exact organization? So what systems do we need on what flight levels, and how are these systems connected? That's a cool thing to have, but we also need to have a common understanding across the entire organization, like what work is being managed in what system. So that's what we call the flight items. The flight items, we just have establish a common understanding. Like for instance, on a strategy board, we don't talk about tasks, but we talk about, I don't know, quarterly objectives or something like this. A common understanding which work is managed on which board. That's what we call flight items. And there's one more thing what we need, and this is flight routes. And flight routes basically tell us how work is flying across all our flight level systems. So that's what we call a flight levels architecture. That's basically it. Thanks, guys.
So we're back. We're back, and yeah, Klaus, if ever you are you solved your tech issues and you're watching this show, thank you for your contribution. I will now introduce the next guest. So Wolfgang Hilpert. We heard so far about safe and flight levels, but there are also other custom agile frameworks that can be used in organizations. So as we know, yeah, every organization is a unique environment, and there's no really one-size-fits-all approach. So Wolfgang is the former CTO of ER Technologies, as we said, and he's today with us to explain how, in his experience, he used a customized approach to business agility. So hello, Wolfgang, again.
Hello, Diego.
Hello. So you applied customized approaches to agile transition at scale in different companies. But in the last experience that here, how did you manage it there? And I don't know. Okay, would you like to highlight maybe some differences or similarities with the other approaches?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So first off, let's start briefly characterize the challenges, some of the main challenges. That made us consider going agile at scale. One, we saw problems in the customer satisfaction. We saw problems with the employee satisfaction. And we needed to find better ways to align between the various parts of the organization, starting with the engineering, with the product delivery teams, but also between the product discovery and definition with the engineering teams, as well as improving the collaboration across the business, not just within the software business. And last, there were quality predictability issues that were essentially cutting into the room for driving innovation and helping improve the customer set. So we focused on first really understanding and jointly getting to a view of what these key business outcomes are that we wanted to drive, and then tune our approach towards highlighting and addressing those. And that drove us to pick a different approach where we would be informed by standard frameworks, scaling frameworks that are on the market. However, really work with an internal group of people taking that into the various parts of the organization and co-create a playbook of how we go about agility. And one part of that was to clearly first look at how can we even descale problems? How can we help improve the autonomy of teams and make them really explore and expand on agility before we then think about and go about really helping the intersection points and scaling across the organization. That was a very important part. So one other thing that is very key is that we really understand the prerequisites for agility. Starts a lot with really getting to a common level of knowledge of what agility even means. What does the word agile mean? What is it? What is it not? And why is there such a big discussion between just picking up agile practices and kind of like do agile versus what does it mean to think about problems, to think about how you evolve and change in a different way, like being or becoming agile, and that through all the parts of the organization. And then there's a lot of pieces of striking a balance, for example, on how much do you invest in actually working on your products versus how much do you systematically invest in evolving your system and becoming better, obviously scaling being a major part of that. Right? So in a summary to address also the last part of your question, it would leverage obviously the networking or intersecting between different parts of the organization or different teams, having sync points, but trying to be as true as possible to the inspect and adapt idea. So do away with obviously traditional stage gate kind of approaches where you tend to bring all the information kind of up to the leaders so that they take the decisions, and rather look for opportunities to bring the decision power to where actually the insight is.
Makes sense. So I grabbed from your first part of the explanation that there were already two identified goals, I think. So improving the satisfaction of the clients and improving the satisfaction of the employees. Are there more? Were there more in this process? And also, were there any quick wins in the process of implementation of this framework?
So the first part, yes, there were quality and predictability issues in some places more than in others, but ultimately they were all there. And overall reducing the time to market from discovery to really delivery of a product need, so that we could improve our ability to innovate and essentially be faster. Quick wins. Yeah, there was, for example, one where we really got quite a nice calibration alignment of what does actually it mean when we say we want to strive for high quality. There had been extensive process handbooks been written about what you should do to achieve quality with, should I say, mixed results. The better way to achieve that was when we introduced these agile practices like creating a definition of ready and a definition of done, and establishing kind of like a marketplace where, you know, there were certain teams maybe just getting into this, having an entry level, a minimal viable version, if you will, of each of those. And then there were the more advanced and even expert levels, right? And making this a very transparent and almost like a sport event, right? Where you would compete, not really compete, but encourage each other to learn from each other, to evolve, you know, what is the best way to approach this? Obviously, always with a means to, at the end, we drive higher quality. So we reduce the amount of rework so we can better invest our cycles in driving product innovation, was what helped us quite a bit.
Good. Very good. To close, to wrap up, I would love to ask you also about your key points of secrets of the Agile transition at scale that you would like to share with the audience. So feel free.
You really want me to give you away my secrets? Oh, anyway. So
I would love to.
Yeah. First, it really is very simple. Establish purpose. Really get together on why are we even doing this, right? So it should not be somebody said we should go agile, or it's a good thing on the market, or looks good to our investors. That's not enough, right? We need to really understand deeply. Start measuring your progress and make it really transparent so people really contribute to it and can also celebrate together when they're seeing we're moving in the right direction. Involve the people in the transformation. Who really wants to be changed by some framework, right? Make them rather be part of this change. That reduces a whole lot of need to communicate and change manage and all those things, right? And then don't forget, Agile is not the goal. Agile is a means to making, hopefully, our business life better.
Great. So thank you for sharing them in the end.
Sure. It's just among us, right?
Okay, Wolfgang, then. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. And I will meet you again as well in the panel discussion later.
All right.
So see you later. And then we will skip to the next guest. That's Markus Vogg. So brief introduction about Markus Vogg is, I will talk about portfolio levels. So the portfolio level is critical to achieve enterprise agility. And organizational agility, as we know, is an end-to-end game. And this game is played to connect strategy and investment funding with operations. So with Markus, we have an expert in lean portfolio management, and as we already said, he's the director of Insight-Driven Agile at Capgemini Invent. So hello, Markus, welcome back.
Hi, Diego. How are you doing?
Hello, fine. So after Agile teams have been for a long time in IT and the larger Agile programs are already running, many companies are now, as we know, busy making the strategic and portfolio level more Agile. So, Markus, what is the main goal of the lean portfolio management?
It's a good question whether there's one main goal, but I would highlight is definitely on the one hand side, if we don't have that level in a more agile setup, then whatever we do further down in the organization, meaning on a team and a program level and safe speak, it becomes kind of a hamster wheel in a way. So you run faster and faster, and it doesn't really have the same effect as you're hoping it would, because in the end, if planning and budgeting cycles further up an organization are still run in a traditional way, you will continue to have fixed milestones with fixed scope, and you will just keep trying to reach those. But in the end, there is not much left of the original envisioned agility, right? So that's, I think, one of the main goals is really to make this agile promise reality for the organization. So what we often see is that after a couple of PIs in the safe speak, right? So let's say after a year or so, latest, then you hear left and right that what is really hampering us from taking that next step or keeping us from taking that next step is basically that the portfolio level is not yet working in a more agile way. So I think that's really the goal.
Okay. And so based on what you say, and also based on what the previous guests said, so if you think about transitions, how would such transitions will look like, let's say, from a portfolio perspective?
Yeah, so what we heard today at the beginning, I think Maria mentioned it, right? With regards to starting lots of arts, taking leaders along early on. So kind of following the implementation roadmap, if you want to call it that. But that is really what it's all about at the beginning. We've seen multiple times when we start kind of top down and start talking about portfolio level, this becomes very theoretical, very paper driven, which of course, as a consultant at the beginning is kind of natural, but then you see it doesn't get you anywhere. So what's important is really to start bottom up while having an idea where you want to go and that you want to touch portfolio level at some point. You want to start bottom up. You want to get momentum in there. And I think what's really important is to show that within this organization that you're talking about, this can actually work. And once you achieve that, then moving to portfolio level is almost automatically. You don't even have to push, kind of react to a lot of pushback. It's almost a natural next step, and even senior management will be very open to the idea. At least that's my experience from a couple of clients.
Okay, and so in general, since we didn't touch so much this topic for the management, so how it's affected the way in which they work?
Yeah. It's affected in a lot of ways. So one is, of course, when you move to a more lean budgeting or kind of a lean agile portfolio level. One thing is, of course, you want to move away from this kind of corner office thinking. So you want to get managers at all levels, even CXO level, out of their corner offices and to make them live the go-see approach, right? To make them participate in system demos at all levels, ideally. Of course, if you're talking CXO, it's probably not going to happen after every sprint, but maybe at the end of every PI, when we're talking multiple millions that have gone into creating the products, then maybe that's actually a reasonable thing to expect, right? So that's one thing. And then at the same time, of course, there's this ability to let go, ability to kind of put in guardrails, prioritize at the right level of detail that you should definitely be involved in, but then let go and then empower really the people within the organization further down. So solution management, product owners, for example, to really prioritize. So this cascade has to work. If it doesn't, it's going to be micromanagement, it's going to be a nightmare, and the organization is going to stay slow.
You were talking also about the people of the organization at the lower levels. There are three classic agile roles and divisional responsibilities. There are like product owner, scrum master, and implementation team. And how do you find them at the portfolio level? Or in other words, who is responsible for the three areas of content, process, performance, and implementation?
Yeah. So there's not a one-to-one link. So if you really stick to the SAFe framework, right, you have at all levels kind of this triage. You don't have it to the fullest extent on the portfolio level, I would say, but you can interpret it in a way that, for me personally, from experience, the LPM team, so really the operational team that kind of keeps the portfolio level alive, the portfolio Kanban and things like that. That's kind of, from my point of view, the role in a way, or the team that's responsible for the process. So they have to keep things going. Then you have, of course, in a way, map the product owner type of responsibilities to more of a number of stakeholders, right? You want your CXO level to be involved there. You want to have enterprise architects involved there that kind of build or kind of prioritize what needs to be done. And but of course, on a very high level. And then in terms of implementation itself, of course, on a portfolio level, you don't have. But in terms of architecture, you have, as I mentioned, the enterprise architects. But then also beyond that, when you think of epics, for example, when you really want to analyze them more and get a better grip on what this really entails and what's the complexity on a case-by-case basis, you want to involve people from the team level, from the program level. So you don't want this to be an ivory tower kind of exercise at all. So I would say that's how it map the three kind of responsibilities.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, my last question to you, Markus. What's your secret for successful in portfolio management?
Yeah, I think I spilled one major secret already, and that's really creating that bottom-up momentum. So really starting with, if you want to call it pilot arts, to prove that this can really work. If you have multiple arts, great. It's even a stronger message. It's not just a one-hit wonder then. And then basically take it from there. Besides that, I would say it's important to really involve a lot of stakeholders early on, especially people that traditionally would be very skeptical of this. For example, controlling. You have to involve them really early to make sure that in today's organization, valuable activity can still be done in a lean agile organization, just focusing on other things. So they're still going to do their job, but they will do it differently. For that to work, we need to involve them early on. So it's really a team sport to take that step, because it involves a lot of different departments, a lot of different interests at any point in time.
Okay, so thank you, Markus, for sharing it and for your contribution. And we will meet each other in a few minutes in the panel discussion again.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. And now, let's go back to Frank Schultheiss. So, Frank, being also you an expert and being the author of the Agility Playbook that we presented last time, I wanted to ask you shortly. So also, which is your secret, or which are your key points in this transition? What do you think about all that our guests already said?
Yes, okay. I can say I have 4 secrets for you, but first one fact. Yes, there's only one secret, and the secret is there are no secrets, because there's no shortcut to Agile at scale. You have to go the hard way, you have to inspect and adapt, you have to iterate and improve. But there are some key points and some really revealing perspectives, and let's call them secrets. And here's the list of 4. The first one is that scaling Agile is hard, but descaling is even harder. Descaling legacy is even harder. And then you have to carefully decide for dramatic or incremental change. Number 3 is the major barrier to Agile transition is not intellectual, it's emotional. And number 4 is frameworks and also capability maturity models try to mimic the 4 key capabilities of already innovative companies like Google, Amazon, or Tesla. I give you a really brief context to the 4 secrets, and then we go to the panel discussion. Okay, number 1 is scaling Agile is hard, but descaling legacy is even harder. That means that you not should put all the new Agile structures on top of the existing ones, because then you just double the bureaucracy. And at least you should somewhat of the you should descale somewhat of the existing structures, and that's difficult because the old behaviors they come back like plants in the garden. You can cut them, but they will arise time and again. The Excel spreadsheets and the specification documents and stuff, because the people are used to do it like this. The second one, you have to carefully decide on dramatic or incremental change. That means if you take a look at the implementation roadmap with all the steps and agile release trains and new processes and roads, that's really dramatic change for the people. On the other hand, you have the flight levels approach, and that's more incremental change, small steps where needed, goal driven. And people usually don't like dramatic change. They prefer small steps, but sometimes, depending on your context, big steps are necessary. So, and number 4, that the major barrier to agile transition is it's not intellectual, it's emotional. That's why, because people are hardwired, and they like to protect what's familiar to them. And yes, and as it turns out, all those 3 secrets are interconnected. Yes, the more dramatic the change, the more resistance you can expect, and the more you have to deal with the descaling topic. So you have to address this. So, and that were the 3 secrets, and let's take the number 4 within the panel discussion, because I think the people are really excited about the panel discussion.
Yeah, so thank you for your point of view, and so now we can start, I guess, the second part of this show. We are again back with all our guests. Welcome back to everyone, and we will deep dive into the panel discussion. I think we already have some questions also from the crowd, but I would love to say hello again to Roland Wolfig, that was not part of the previous part of the show. So Roland, if it's not bothering you, I would love to start with you. I would love to do the kickoff of this panel discussion, making a question to you. It's just a broad and could be simple, could be a complex one, but it's just, what do you think about all those frameworks, and what do you think they have in common? And is there a way we can think more about Agile in an let's say, more abstract, generic way?
Thanks, Diego. So from my perspective, I really like to look at Agile, as you said, a little bit more abstract. And for me, what Agile really brings to the table is that you have reflection, or space for reflection, on all different kinds of levels in the organization. And what I know from my experience is that most companies look more on the product side. So how do we develop our product? What's going on with the product and so on? And Agile really brings to the table to reflect on how are we doing this? How are we creating the project or the product? Also, how do we create not only the product, but how do we deal with the organization? What do we have to change within the organization? In the case studies before, we heard we have to change structures and so on. And this is something rather new. It's probably not new for management, but it's new that everybody in the organization is involved in this process. And I think this is something that all these frameworks have in common. And this is something that Agile really benefits the companies.
Cool. How have you seen these frameworks being implemented in different organizations? What are the difficulties with this?
What I see is, as we heard before, so this one-size-fits-all process doesn't work. So each organization is different. You have different cultures, and you kind of have to have a fit. And to achieve this, you have to work with the people to make sure what you're doing fits the current organization. I think this is very important. As Maria said, even if you start with a framework, adopt it so you make it fit for your organization.
Okay, cool. So thank you, Roland. I wanted to involve you a bit since you weren't part of the first part of the show, but now I think I will pass the ball to Sven because there are questions from the crowd, and so the panel discussion can actually start.
Okay, hello again. And yes, indeed, we have some questions from the audience, and I would like to start with one of them. And that was said, okay, we hear very positive feedback on the Agile approach from today's speakers, but it would be very interesting to hear something about drawbacks, disadvantages that occurred during transitions. So there is no direct addressee, but do you have something in mind which you can mention regarding this point as well?
I could go.
Yes, please.
So,
please.
Okay. So one of the things that I think is misunderstood typically is that when you want to be successful with going Agile for real, you have to be ready to first slow down before you can speed up. So you should be ready to actually initially see while the team is learning, right? Or the environment around you is learning how this whole thing works. That your results might not be immediately what you would be hoping for. And sometimes, that leads to the wrong conclusion that people give up early on it or are just half-heartedly supporting it or whatnot. And often I felt by better managing the expectation, what is it we're getting into for ourselves here, and what do we have to deal with, at least initially, could help that.
Okay, thank you very much for this. And I will directly lead to another question, and it was raised also here in the chat. So some special tips or advices about the implementation of Agile methodologies at multicultural teams with members from Europe, Middle East, and Latin America would be great for one of the listeners. So do you have any advices? Do you have some experience made out of some multicultural teams? And if there were some specialists which you would like to announce?
Yeah, I can maybe mention a couple of things. So I've had experience introducing agility, also using the SAFe framework, for example, on the one hand side in the Chinese market. Where just an example, if you do kind of vote of fist voting, so a vote of 5 in terms of their confidence of a PI planning, it's of course very important to create a safe space. Just one example, right? Because it's not very usual culturally for them to say, I'm gonna give a 1 or 2 and we'll force everybody to replan. So it's not very popular, let's put it that way. But other than that, in other cultures, I think what's important is to create this feeling that it's a very inclusive atmosphere. I think it makes it's very helpful, let's put it that way, if also the agile coach doesn't take himself or herself too seriously in that sense. So I think laughing helps a ton if you introduce something, and just a very pragmatic approach I think is really important to and that works across cultural boundaries. So in Brazil just as much as in Asia, just as much as in Europe and the US, I would say.
Okay, thank you very much for this explanation. If there are some follow-up questions, I will read them directly on the chat. So maybe we will come back to one of these topics again, but we'll proceed with another one. There was a question about the organization setup. So has the organization setup also changed in terms of organization chart? And if so, how? So maybe, for example, there was mentioned hierarchical pyramid organization where the circles organization chart. Again, no addressee in particular, but maybe someone would like to tell about some experience.
Well, I can tell you how we have done it.
Okay.
We basically keep the line organization equal to the agile organization. So this is different from, for example, what they recommend in SAFe 5.0, where they recommend to split it. But we have chosen to keep it together because we have seen that, especially when we are in a learning phase, we want to have everybody engaged in getting the system to work together, so that the managers and the agile leaders, they have the same scope.
I would like to add something here. So I also hear all about, so we have to change the organization. And I think the more important thing is that you have this open culture we heard before, that you have this safe spaces, and that you treat each other on eye level. And this is more important than the structure of the organization. And I think
that's true.
Yeah, I would add to that, if I may. So there are obviously many different considerations. How do you have the reporting structure, let's say, between the development managers, maybe their product owners, et cetera, that would be worth probably for another session. But I think this notion of the job of a typical traditional line manager, that possibly in the past was the one-stop shopping, right? That was the lead on the project, ideally the lead on the scope, possibly even the lead on the architecture. It was all on one desk, right? That is changing. At least it was in my experience, dramatically. And while some of the managers were actually looking forward to the opportunity to essentially delegate a lot of the responsibility and worked very openly with that and saw the at least half glass full. Now I can focus more on establishing my team's capabilities or improving those. Others felt outright threatened by this and were possibly pushing back against it. So that is, I think, a consideration I would take very seriously. And that obviously has to do with org structures, but is possibly even more critical to really manage well.
Yeah, I can add to that we had exactly that experience, that when we wanted to change the line manager role from being this one-stop shop to having a focus on the organizational and the team questions, it was a huge resistance to that. It took us about a year before we got acceptance to it.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it was a quite good discussion because everybody would take part of it. So it's a great question and have also some good explanations. If you don't mind, I would go for the next one because we have still two left. And there was a question if you see or if you can see some parallels between the learning organization, which we know from the past, and the agile transition. Who wants to give an answer on this?
I mean, a very short one.
Sure.
One cannot go without the other, I would think. At least, I mean, in my view, trying to implement an agile journey like a traditional, here's a starting point, here's an end point, like a traditional project, is, I think, dead on arrival. You have to do that by a continuous step-by-step learning approach, inspect and adapt, which obviously is pretty intuitive for those that are into the agile. This is maybe one of the, linking that back to your earlier question, one of the downsides. The one question that I get all the time, okay, and when are we done? Well, the hard answer is never.
Mhm.
Okay, anyone else who want to add something here?
Well, I can just say that Agile has kind of taken learning organization from a concept to reality. So it's exactly as Wolfgang say, that suddenly we have a whole way of working that is built on retrospectives and continuous improvements. So it has brought the learning organization to life.
Okay,
like
thank you very much. Okay, I think this is already answered, so I will go to the next one. And there's a question about the level of flight level, respectively. At what level did you initially get the mandate for Agile to change? So Agile coaches or consultants are usually injected into the team levels to demonstrate methods and tools.
So, sorry to jump up again. I have tried that in various environments, unless this is really grounded at the very top level. I have very strong doubts it will be successful. I think you will have to have the authorization to go for an agile transformation all the way to the top.
I would like to add to this. I completely agree. You need the top level, but also you need the need on the bottom level. I think
Absolutely.
You need both sides, because it can only work if you have both sides and they are working together. If one of those two are missing, then it probably won't work.
100% agree.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else to add here? And then there was another question to the flight level approach.
Time for the last one, Sven. Okay.
Okay. Then maybe I will lead directly back to a question which was directly addressed to Frank. And I would like to ask this one, because you mentioned in your part that there were 4 secrets from your perspective, and the detailed description you gave us for 3 of them. But what about the 4th one?
Yes, okay. The secret number 4. Okay, that was that frameworks and try to mimic the 4 key capabilities of already innovative organizations like Google or Tesla. And yes, the 4 key capabilities are external sensing, customer obsession, innovation throughout, and agility anywhere. Innovation throughout means that innovation is not only applied at the product level, but also at all other areas like talent development or marketing and throughout the whole organization. The capabilities were identified in a study published in a Harvard Business Review book, great book, by the way, Reinventing the Organization. And they analyzed Google, Amazon, Tencent, Alibaba, Facebook, and a bunch of other top innovative companies. And these 4 capabilities are the results of this analysis.
Good. So I guess the time is up in our schedule for the panel discussion. So thank you all for this contribution. I would like just to do the last round with you guys to do a wrap up about the secrets that you shared. So just summarizing your secret or your key point. And Frank, you have to decide, because you said that there are no secrets from your side. So you have to decide either you say 0 or 4. So I would
But
start with. Okay. So I would start with Maria, please.
Well, it's interesting to hear everybody's secrets because they are all very much, in line with things that have been challenges for us. So I think you can conclude that an agile transformation is very multidisciplinary and very complex. I really think that this has been a good learning experience. So I would like to thank you for arranging it.
And thank you for being part of it. So then I would go to Wolfgang.
Yeah, I'm also very happy and grateful, for this opportunity to attend. And I learned a lot and enjoyed the discussion. So keep doing this, and I'll obviously pick up the book you recommended, Frank. So there it is, a very concrete takeaway.
And thank you, Wolfgang, for being with us and for sharing your secret in the end. And and then I would call in Roland as well.
Sure. So I think there were, as Frank said, there are no secrets, but there are a lot of important aspects. Communicate a lot, get the people involved, question everything, and think about it. And also, thanks a lot. This was a great pleasure.
It was a great pleasure for us as well, and thanks for supporting us in the panel discussion. And then last but not least, Markus, please.
Yeah, sure. First of all, also thanks for having me. And I want to close with my secret, and that's really thinking about or using pilots at all kinds of levels, make it concrete, create momentum, and feed off of that. I think that's really not a secret, but pretty important in my view. So thanks for having me. Was fun with you guys.
Thank you to all of you.
And thanks for all of you for being here. Thank you, Markus.